This is Luke Paulson, the Catholic Conservative, and welcome to the news of the week for December 2nd, 2023. And if you enjoy these videos, do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. Libertarian defeats a Commie. South America is a wasteland of poverty. However, it was not always like this. It was once prosperous, but then the communist came. However, something has happened in Argentina that made me do a double take. The people there elected a libertarian over the socialist candidate. Now, I am not going to give Javier Milei a blanket recommendation based on his party, mostly because comparing countries by politics without considering their history is tricky. However, I do think that the rest of South America is going to be watching Argentina very closely to see what happens. If things go well, we may see similar revolutions on the rest of the continent. However, if things do not go well, or the public is made to perceive that it does not go well, this will set them back decades. A pure libertarian philosophy of government is painful in the short run, especially if one has grown dependent on the government. However, in the long term, it produces better results. The deck was stacked against Milei, and he was able to win. However, while the deck is stacked against libertarians in America, I do not have hope for them for the presidency. While I despise voting for the lesser of two evils, the deck is stacked against them in the very election cycle. Maybe if the Republican Party wins enough public support, the Democrat Party will fade away and the Libertarian Party can replace them.
One can only hope.
Only women compete now. In a topsy-turvy world, men compete alongside women in contact sports. This is something right out of the Twilight Zone. With increased muscle mass, bone density, as well as heart and lung capacity, men have an advantage in certain sports. Men who failed in competing with other men compete with women so that they can win. After years of this nonsense, women are finally standing up. They are stepping away from everything from pool to wrestling when competing with men. And even World Athletics is banning males from competing in female events. This is the way that it should be. Hit the organizers right in the pocketbook. People pay to see these people compete, and if there's no competition, the organizers lose money. It is hard to justify a competition that only has one or two competitors. Women are getting their spaces back. Have any of these organizers ever wondered why men transition to compete with women in wrestling, but women never transition to compete with men in wrestling?
The world may never know.
Inflation is real. With prices going up all over the country, Democrats are scrambling to downplay the effects of the inflation monster.
Right now, one United States dollar is worth about 1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars.
Whoa, that's awesome. I have 10 US dollars I earned selling corn dogs. Here, take it. Then you'll have $10 trillion and you'll be rich.
It's nice of you, but that 10 trillion won't get me very far when a loaf of bread now costs 5 trillion.
$5 trillion for a loaf of bread? It better taste amazing.
Their latest tactic is that inflation is being overstated to make the administration look bad. They further note that President Trump is making fighting inflation a part of his campaign. The fake news is telling their viewer that he is overstating inflation as a campaign tactic. It is easy for them to say that inflation is not real as they broadcast from ivory towers. The rest of us have to deal with the consequences. Be wary of those who have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Beggars become choosers. I take you now to Chicago, one of the many sanctuary cities where the illegals that crossed into Texas were sent to. I can only imagine the blistering cold that they are dealing with right now. Naturally, since these people have no job history, they are reliant on charity and goodwill to keep going. The illegals are getting food at shelters but are now complaining about the quality of the food. When I was a kid, I either ate what I was given or sat at the table until it was eaten. They are the ones who came to this country. They could have come legally and got jobs. Instead, they came illegally and won handouts. Either way, what ungrateful little turds. Military drag queens. The military is having a big problem meeting its recruitment goals. This is after their ads that feature a woman's life story of being an activist for the LGBT agenda fell through. Granted, I cannot imagine joining the military knowing that you are not even defending your own country. Whether it is Ukraine or Israel, America has no business in any country that is not a threat to America. Even when they are a threat to America, it is probably based on a lie like Iraq's imaginary weapons of mass destruction, or the Gulf of Tonkin incident that got us involved in Vietnam. With declining numbers, the military has to find a new way to meet its recruitment goals. Their solution is so idiotic that only a snowflake could have come up with it. They are using drag queens to get recruits. It did not stay in the confines of adult bars. It did not stay in the confines of libraries. Now it is a part of the military. I am sure that our enemies are positively terrified of us now. Homeschooling on the rise. Homeschooling is a solution that fights against the indoctrination that so many parents saw during the pandemic. Online public schooling showed parents what some teachers were really up to. Whether this be the LGBT agenda or CRT, teachers were political activists. Homeschooling is on the rise across the country. The trend is across the nation, but liberal wastelands like New York, California, and Washington, D.C. are growing the fastest. Why would this be the trend? You would think that it would be states like Texas and other Republican centers that saw the most growth. Could it be that parents in these liberal wastelands have had enough of the indoctrination and are finally standing up? Young Chiefs fan. Imagine going to an NFL game and painting your face red and black to mark the team colors and being called racist for it. Karen, the writer at Deadspin, claims that he was mocking two races simultaneously at the Kansas City Chiefs game, even though the boy is Native American. This is just like Nick Sandman when a crazy old man stood in his face beating a drum. The boy's family should sue Deadspin and any other outlet that carried this story for every penny that they are worth. Just like all other Karens, Karen wants to just complain about everything that he sees. These people are the reason why President Trump popularized the phrase fake news. Unfair trades. Hamas is a terrorist network, and only a fool or college student would doubt that. They released their hostages during the ceasefire. According to the Associated Press, during one exchange, 17 hostages were returned for a total of 39 prisoners given back to Hamas. This means that if this represents the average rate of return, the civilized world released 2 terrorists for every civilian. As for me, I put it in my will that if I am ever captured by thugs like these, to just leave me be. My life is not worth all of the people that will be killed afterward. All of the prisoners will go back to killing civilians. They can have another genocide just like the one that they had in October. Granted, it is not as bad as the 1-to-100 ratio that Obama and Brandon prefer. Hunter Biden testifies. Hunter Biden is scheduled to testify in front of the House very soon. And
I'm loving it.
will he have to answer for his crimes?
One can only hope.
Either way, even when he is untouchable, this will make Brandon even less popular. Even the fake news is willing to admit that in a head-to-head against President Trump, Brandon is just barely behind him, and that is after their very skewed polling. If Brandon had just stood up and said that his son was in the wrong, he might have avoided all of this. Instead, his administration doubled down and even changed their story multiple times. First, Brandon had no knowledge of his son's business deals. Then Brandon was never in business with his son. This just gets juicier every day. And speaking of Hunter Biden, there's a very funny story that just came out. One less stocking. Last year, the White House mantle was decorated with stockings, one for each grandchild, except for one, Hunter's child, whom Brandon only reluctantly acknowledged. This is because it was from an affair that never should have happened. Moving on, now their mantle has no stockings hung by the chimney with care. If you never lie, you never have to keep your story straight. Koch brothers back Haley. The Koch brothers have officially endorsed Nikki Haley, who is running for president of Israel. Wait, sorry, she is running for president of the United States. I just thought that you are running for the country that you want to give money to. As you may know, Haley is a neocon. This represents a bit of a shift in the Koch brothers' non-interventionist policy. Is this just who the Koch brothers endorse? Or is this the Republican establishment doing whatever it can to stop President Trump? Either way, things are getting very interesting. If Nikki Haley does get the nomination, she and Brandon can debate whether to fund Israel or Ukraine. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but that is just my opinion. And do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. But before you go, on the left I have last week's video, but you may also enjoy the video on the right.